This is just so wonderful down here. Why does this seem so big? It's just enormous. It's a great family cruising boat. I mean, my gosh. Oh my God, how are you? It's so nice to see you. Hi there, this is Captain Q. Join us as we travel hither and yon to show you some great deals on some really interesting boats and maybe learn just a little bit with each one.
Captain!
Hey, Guy.
You made me trek pretty far for this.
I did make you trek a couple hundred miles up to Rockland, where I was staying in a really wonderful hotel, the Harbor Hotel in Rockland. I recommend it for anybody. We are actually on an island today. We had to catch a ferry, take an hour and 15-minute ride from Rockland over to Vinyl Haven, Maine. And that's where we are now, the beautiful, quiet, unbelievably picturesque island here. You know, when we get an opportunity to look at the boat, what do we think to do? We got to seize the moment, right? Is that a good idea?
Yeah, carpe diem.
Carpe diem. Well, that's seize the day, but I want to seize the moment here. But let's take a look. We've got, you know, Sunlight here, and we have Chase and Tail here, and Loose Cannon. Oh, and here's Sandra E. Now, I don't think that's quite right. At the moment you find it, you say, let's seize the moment. This is too hard to believe, right? How could we possibly seize the moment better than this? We're looking at a 1984 Irwin 41 ketch. This was designed by a man named Ted Irwin, who was really quite a remarkable young man, designer. He originally grew up in New Jersey, and where he built his very first boat, probably in the garage, and it was called a Moth. Moth was a boat that was originally conceived in an Australia, New Zealand area, and it just sort of caught on. I think even Randy saw one growing up next door to him in a neighbor's garage, because most of these were home built. And the captain actually sailed one back in the early 60s on a little lake south of Buffalo. Ted designed a 31-foot boat called Voodoo. And Voodoo went out. He won 24 out of 28 races that he put that boat into down in southern Florida. He later went on to go to work for, as many people do, for a builder, Charlie Morgan, and then later struck out on his own. And he came up with a boat called Razzle Dazzle, which went off, this is in the IOR days, and she went off and won a number of the races during the SORC. I don't think she won the whole SORC, but she won a number of races and impressed a lot of people. He took his skills about developing racing boats and applied it and started to sell small cruising boats for his customers. And over the years, I don't know, I think he must have done over 30 different designs. Now, this particular boat debuted in 1982. It was a little different because he took some of his racing hull from Razzle Dazzle, some of the same sort of lines, and incorporated them into this boat. Now, Razzle Dazzle had a fin keel on it and a spade rudder, and she was just a little bit more racy. But he was designing this to be as comfortable as possibly could for people. Over the years, they built, I think, a total of 6,000 boats. And this is the beginning of their bigger size boats, which went up to the 60s. But he's known, the Irwin Company is known for having built the most boats over 50 feet at that time. And I think they built something like 600 of their boats over 50 feet. All right, let's start at the beginning here. We call this the bow, right? We've all figured that one out by now. I would suggest that this might be painted on, and the hull itself appears to be original gel coat. It's just lost a little bit of its sheen. It's still very clean, but it has almost a matte finish to it. You're not going to read anything in the reflection from this. The bottom paint, it's our good old friend a Blavitive paint, and it has a few chinks out of it, one or two extra coats, but nothing disarming, and certainly not enough to prevent you from taking this guy and setting her over the side. If the owner goes over the side with a sponge, that's about it, does a little snorkel diving on the boat, you can keep this boat clean without spending a penny on it. And that worked well for me for years with the PB. Up here, Randy, you're going to be so pleased to see. Here's your favorite thing. Here is a really swell bowsprit for you to go sit on out there. It'll be nice having you out there because it'll be quieter in the cockpit.
It's the furthest away from the cockpit.
Way out there, baby. You're out there. But then we got this chunk of stainless coming down here. This is called a bobstay. And it comes right down and meets the tang coming out of the hull. And this is all glassed into the hull down here very solidly. One thing I'm looking at is that this pin that's been put in here doesn't appear to be exactly the right side. I can't tell if the hole's been elongated or whatever, but I'd like to see this flushed up. That's a small point, and from the looks of this has been working for quite a while, but I certainly want to take a look at that going forward. I want this structure to be just as tough as it possibly can be. Going down the starboard side of the hull here, she's very smooth. Irwin's schedule of layups on this hull was very precise, and everything was pre-cut and then laid in above the waterline. He also used something called core mat, and I haven't seen that before, but on many of the earlier boats, you could come up and you could look at the boat and you could see the woven roving actually sort of printing. It would print out and you could actually see it under here. Wasn't real obvious, but it was just there. So by putting the core mat on, he's eliminated that problem. I see a lot of his through-hull fittings are plastic here, and they've held up well. This has got a little sun baking on it. I want to look at these up close. The keel is just basically a good cruising short keel. The draft is 4.5 feet, and that will get you anywhere in the Bahamas, and this boats were built to go cruise off into the Bahamas.
No centerboard or anything, huh?
No centerboard, no. The boat was also available with a fin keel. Now the fin keel would have been the same thing he probably had on, very similar to what he had on Razzle Dazzle. All right, so you didn't need that deep 6.5 foot fin to go off to the Bahamas. Just going to limit your cruising time. With a stainless prop coming out onto a two-bladed prop here. This boat, I think, has just been done for some casual cruising in and around Maine. This is embedded up into the keel, not bolted on, but up inside this little skeg, or this little rib right here. And so that looks like a pretty solid installation.
No zincs.
No zincs. You think so? Coming aft, we have the rudder, and she's held on with a couple of big gudgeons right here. And this is a split bearing of some sort, it looks like. You'd want to investigate that completely. But she has a little weed stopper here in front of the leading edge. Notice up here, we've seen these rub strakes before. This is quite a thick, heavy-duty job. She's really wide. And if you sight down here, you'll see that it more than covers any bit of tumble home on the boat. So no matter what pilings you come into, you know, this is going to cover it. All right, let's go take a look up on deck. What do you think?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, Randy, come on up, pal.
Oh, thanks.
Once again, I find myself behind the wheel. I don't know what it is. This is just a track.
Seems to be like a gravitational pull.
It is a gravitational pull. Now, I'm just overall look at this boat tells me that the owner has not spent every waking hour keeping every system up necessarily. The teak has been let go gray. That's fine, and it's weathered nicely. Actually, it's not in bad shape. I'm looking at a compass that's half filled with fluid that needs to be addressed. She just needs to be tidied up some. But look at this comfortable cockpit now. See the curve? We have the nice curve to the cockpit first of all, and then also the slight slant. That's probably off about 10 degrees off, you know, upright, and just enough to make you feel secure and comfortable. And I'm also looking at everything around me. There's nothing in my way. There's no traveler here for the main sheet, but this is the center eye here for the main sheet to block will go to. So you'll do the trimming right here for the main sheet. That's convenient to the helmsman. And then
no traveler though.
No traveler, and that's fine. If you wanted to fuss with these boats a little bit, and frankly, something I think it would be fun, and I like the thought of doing this, is taking a boat like this and okay, I'm going to spend a little more money. Okay, I'm going to buy this boat and kind of spruce it up. I'd work on the bottom. We'd get the fastest bottom we could. We'd put a flexible prop on there, you know, a folding prop. I'd have our favorite pal, Richard Hallett, make us a set of really fast mainsail and a really fast mizzen, just the right cut on the Jenny, set a traveler on the boat, and then go out and actually race the boat because her underwater lines are pretty firm. Now, we're not going to go to weather like crazy because she's not quite deep enough to get the maximum amount to weather. But let's go to Halifax. And we don't beat to Halifax. You broad reach and get yourself going down there. You spread all this canvas and look at the height of this mizzen back here. That's huge. Now imagine Imagine a mizzen staysail. It's going to look like another whole Genoa on this boat. You're going to raise an amazing amount of sail. Basically, she carries about 800 square feet, but that's just the working sail. You put a big overlapping Genoa, 135, maybe a spinnaker, staysail, and so forth. Boom, she's going to blossom out. It would really be fun. And notice there are no lockers. We just have these very large cubby holes, right? I mean, they're huge. You could
those are deep.
They're giant. Usually you put a sandwich in there. Here you could put a roast turkey inside there, and mashed potatoes the next one. They're gigantic. It has what you might call the garage, okay? When they put after staterooms in a lot of these boats, they sometimes forget that you need to store gear up on deck. So this is very nice, and this is quite deep. There's a big hatch here right now, and that's going to be right over that berth. And there's another hatch here for more light, and we'll see where that goes. We have turning blocks here. You don't always see that on these boats. There's a turning block. This is off the racing boats. The Genoa comes down to the track forward, comes through this, and then leads back up to the winch. And then always gives a nice fair lead to that winch, and it'll be much better for trimming the sail. The wire you see coming down aft is just a topping lift to carry the boom, okay? That just picks up the boom back here on the topping lift. And right at the very end is the outhaul for the mizzen. That'll hook onto the end of the mizzen's sail and be hauled forward. The chain plates for this boat were all molded right into the side of the hull. So these things are these chain plates you see coming up here are buried in the glasswork below, and it's got double swivels, so it allows this thing to move in two different directions, a lower one and upper one there. 6 hatches, plus I know there's a lot of opening ports along the side of the hull. You would want to have a pretty good windlass for a boat this size to go sailing with. Now, in a 40-ish foot boat, you can haul up that anchor by yourself. That is a 25, I think probably a 25 CQR. So even the old captain can haul that puppy up.
What happens if it gets stuck in a little mud or rock or something?
If the chain is stuck out there, you bring the boat slowly up to over the anchor, so that the anchor line's going straight down to the anchor like so, and then you just sometimes the wave action will do the leverage work for you, and it'll just pull until finally it pulls that anchor straight up and it pops out, and then all of a sudden the boat will fall off the wind and you'll know that you're free. Then you hand pull that anchor up and you're all set. Here's your bow pulpit. That's a really swell bow pulpit, Randy.
See what I'm talking about?
I know, that's what you're talking about right there, buddy. Do you want to go out there?
I think I'm gonna have to.
Oh my God, look, he's all the way out there.
It's pretty great.
Don't you love this boat?
Yeah, I do.
It's crazy. The paint is a little rough. It needs to be touched up. It'd be nice to take this out and paint it. You could do a lot of touch up right here without going very far. Something like this you got to watch out for when you store boats. You see how this is all polished? Right there?
Yep.
Okay, now that's because this thing has been beating against it through the winter. So the yard or somebody would have been nice if they had tied it off a little better.
The vang lines seem a little crusty, right?
Yes, they are. Put them in some warm, fresh water with just a little bit of soap, and they will soften up. It'll get some of that salt out of that. It's just the salt that's hardened in there. And they'll get real soft and easy and malleable.
Do you do that every winter with some of your lines, or most of them, or?
Well, every winter, if you just flush them down with fresh water and let them air dry someplace, preferably not in a closed closet somewhere, let them air dry out in the sun, and then put them away dry and carefully, you won't have to do that. I'm not certain what's going on here. There's something that's been glassed over here. I don't know if it was a baby stay or a small staysail stay, but we want to look in to find out what that's all about. The decks are just slightly, very, very, very pale blue, set against a white gel coat trim around it. But wonderful deck space here on this 41 footer. Let's take a look in this boat, okay? What do you think?
Yeah, let's go down.
Come on down, buddy. Here we go. Once again, I found the best place to sit on this boat. A nice L-shaped settee. There's a nice 7-foot settee across me there with extra cushions and so forth. And there is storage behind these settees, just tons of just basic dry storage. Where do you eat? Where is the table? Now, I don't see where one lived, so we'll have to find that out from the owner. But for the moment, I guess eating on your lap would not be the worst thing in the world that could happen to you.
You could also, if you bought this boat, you design your own and make it like the Choi Lee.
You could do that. Good thing to do when you sit down about this is look up and see what you see in the way of any leakage or drips or stains, whatever. And there just aren't any. There are some stains on the floor, just rub marks more or less, and hardly worth mentioning, that have been damp, and the water's gotten to it. And it would take so little to just brighten that up. A little steel wool maybe, and sand it down, and then put some low sheen varnish on it, something to just make it look good. But this is an enormous amount of room here. This is things that we like down here. Let's talk about that right now. Look at the companionway. This is a really easy step up. Any dog is going to be able to walk up here. You might want to put a little non-skid on there for the dog just so it wouldn't slip. But it's very important for me to have a dog, like, Sea Dog, to show up. Sea Dog got down here without any problem whatsoever. There's a little step down because we're going down underneath the cockpit overhead. I'm 6'1" with the hat, remember, and well, with the hat I'm about 6'2", so I'm kind of bumping into that. But they kindly put a little piece of padding here, pretty good one actually. That's really, if you bump into that, you won't even know it. Nice drawer storage for cooking utensils, eating utensils, and you can look down into the hall there, and you can see the glasswork, the heavy roving. While the cook is cooking, here's a little hand pump right there, a little hand bilge pump.
Bilge pump, oh neat.
And we also have another access. The engine is right under this big case, and this is kind of interesting because it's practically walk-in. Look how much room is down in there.
Oh, wow.
And I believe that's the original Perkins 62 horsepower. Room forward of that to put up a generator at one point. Super-sized double sinks here. Another freshwater pedal pump down here to...
How about that fridge?
Oh my God, that's big enough. That fridge is so big, you gotta take a look at it. Look how big that is. I could fit a Rande in there.
Is that a Dare?
Look at the size of that icebox.
It's enormous, and I had to give it the Rande test.
And that's even got your size 14s down there too, right?
It does, and that goes a little lower if I wanted to.
Oh, Randy, we don't want to lose you. You better come on up. That's incredible. What a great storage spot. Look at that. Look at all that meat that's coming out of there.
I wonder if the Captain Q measuring stick would work there.
Captain Q could get his little finger in there. Opposite the galley here, we have your circuit breaker panels for your cabin lights, running lights, bow lights, and everything. And this is nice because see how dry it's going to be? This is always going to be dry. Looking down at the space where the generator might have lived. I think there might have been one there, and maybe it's been removed. But if you don't, then it just becomes another big access to your engine room. And here's the other side of the engine, starboard port side of the engine. Change some oil filters, fuel filters, but get your mechanic and you'll be, I think, happy with the outcome. Good Perkins diesel, 62 horse. Bilges everywhere. Nice floorboards that pop up. And we have just a little bit of standing water right there. Probably rainwater that's come down and just hasn't drained completely, and the boat may not be totally level. What do you see down there? Do you see anything?
It's a fishing hole, right?
It's a fishing hole, yes. That's for ice fishing.
Yep.
Let's just see if it has threads to it. It does have threads to it.
Look at that. So is that for just when it's on the hard, as a drain plug, you just unscrew it and let it drain out?
Yeah, bilge water, exactly. It's a very typical bilge drain.
Nice access to the through hole.
Nice access to it. It looks pretty fresh. And we'd have to find out if it has to be eased up a little bit. A lot of these things, when they sit for a long time, will take a set. And then you want to come in and
just work them a little bit.
Work them a little bit, exactly. Maybe even take them apart and lubricate them. So here we're in this is a little entertainment center maybe. Put some games in here, puzzles, whatever. This is a great family cruising boat. I mean, my gosh. What do you think about this storage?
It's pretty organized.
Yeah. What do we normally see here? Everything you can't find a place for goes into the charts. And this is very tidy. They get an extra star for that one. And I'm going to go buy a...
yeah, what would you say the headroom is? About 6 feet?
Oh, it's 6'1". I think about 6'1". If I take this hat off, I can stand up without my shoes.
And if you comb your hair.
And if I comb my hair. Hanging locker. This has tells me that it's probably been a foul weather gear locker. and that there's been some moisture in here from foul weather gear. We want to find out what this is all about, what's taking place in here. There's been
What were you
there's
looking
been a
at?
little bit of leakage right there on the bottom. I don't know why that's wet. This boat definitely needs to be well surveyed. Coming back to the owner's cabin, it's really big. Two things I like. I like a library in any room on a boat. And there's a place for a library here. We've got 6 drawers underneath this berth, and all dry and nice. And there's a hanging locker here for our gray and blue dress and our blazers. And that's all been lined with some sort of stuff probably at the factory originally. A very large double berth here, and it appears even larger because they've put a nice reflecting mirror on the back of this berth.
Well, that's your favorite.
Yes.
Get to see more captain.
Exactly. If I get up there, there'll be 2 captains. Now look underneath here. Let's just see what we got here. Nice big dry volume. Now, you could store an extra sail in here. You can get to the steering mechanism right here too. That's nice. And they've led the cables for the steering up through hoses. And that's nice so they won't chafe. Nice touch. Now I'm going to pop myself up here. That's a little tricky, but not too bad. And I'm just going to roll over here to the backside. And, oh my gosh, I recognize this guy. What's he doing here?
You're never going to leave.
Oh,
You're going
my
to turn over,
Oh, hello.
fall in love.
Oh my God, how are you? It's so nice to see you. Look how much room there is out there. I'm not even, just barely to the edge of the bunk. Lots of room. If you're sailing, then you just sleep with your head on the high end of the bunk. And the boat tacks, and you just got to turn around the bunk and move the other way.
Kind of like a rotisserie chicken.
So it's like a rotisserie chicken. All the opening ports, 4 or 5 on each side. So if you open that all up and open all these hatches, you might as well be living outdoors. It's really fantastic. Tons of ventilation. I'm in the head, obviously, and I'm having a shower. And there is a shower curtain track right here, and it just needs a curtain. So it will keep the bulk of the splash into the shower pan right here, which drains right down there beside my left foot. Storage for paper towels. Manual head, not electric. This is just so wonderful down here. And you know what we have here, Randy?
Is it what I think it is?
It is what you think it is. It's one of our classic
Twofer.
a twofer. And we got this little sink here with a pull-out handle for showering. A nice shower pan down here. Nice head. We've got a mirror here that opens somewhere. Let's see, there we go. Look at that. Now, a lot of the fit and finish is not going to come up to Hinckley standards, right? And we'll just use that as our baseline. But it's all very serviceable. And then we have another big mirror here. Boy, Captain Q looks pretty good today. Let's see, get that tightened up.
Maybe I should leave you alone.
Okay. Thank you. So here I am back.
There's the twofer.
The twofer came right through. So we got 2 doors in the head. And we have just a good, you can only do so much with a V-berth on a 41-footer, but this is nice size. And I'm looking over here on the ceiling of the boat, and you notice this moisture here, the dampness.
Yeah.
What do you think? The kids were up here, opened up the port light, Dad goes sailing, and water's splashing in there. So good possibility. And there's little bits and pieces of that here and there where water has had the opportunity to get into the boat. Not through leakage, but probably more through lack of care of taking care of certain things, like closing hatches. One of the minor problems with this boat right now is that she carries 150 gallons of fuel, but one of those tanks, probably 75 gallons worth, has failed, and we have to find out what they intend to do about that. It may be that you just got 75 gallons of fuel for the price. And actually 75 gallons of fuel for this boat will take you an awful long way.
Does that mean you
150
would
gallons is
just, it's
huge.
hard to remove? Is that why it would?
Every boat's different. Some of these things are built right in at the time. Sometimes they put a whole grid over a tank. I've heard of them having to cut some of these tanks out, the old aluminum tanks sometimes, or certainly the black iron tanks would rust. Randy, We're finally back home in Rockland after being off at sea. We were miles and miles off at sea today to actually look at a boat. We didn't do a whole lot of sailing, but we powered on one of Rockland, Maine's finest ferry boats. And we got a chance today to look at an Irwin 41, which I've always wanted to actually see. We were very pleasantly surprised, don't you think so?
Yeah, it was really neat.
It was an amazing amount of room. For $35,000, this boat is a real buy. I love the split rig. She's simple. And the engine, as old as it is, has only 1,300 hours on it. Now, Randy, you always like about this time for me to turn around and tell you what the rating on this boat is.
That's right.
Flat out, she's got a 10. No question about that. If she floats, she gets a 10. You're going to have to do some work with her. We know she has a couple of issues. I would put it over the side and go sailing, see how she does, and then make a my list then, at that point. See what I want to prioritize at that point. Another 5, because she's sort of cool. I've got to give it 6 more on top of the 5. This is weird, but this is for me now, okay? This is for me and for Sea Dog. I'm going 21 on this baby. And you know what I'm going to do? Oh, I'll tell you what I'm going to do too. You want to know what else I'm going to do? I mentioned it before. I'd love to sort of spruce that up and go racing with a boat. And I want to race it to Halifax. That's where I want to go with it. This is my next boat to Halifax. If you like what you see, please hit the subscribe button. And if you want to be notified when the next one comes out, please hit the alert bell. And that's not desperate at all. So we're having too good a time doing these things, so you're going to hit the bell or not. Randy, how would I ever find out what's coming up next?
You can follow us on Instagram here
Yeah.
or Facebook here. We'll have little previews of what's coming up on our next episodes a little bit early.
That's pretty cool. Previews. You all join me. I'm going to Instagram right now, and I'm going to find out what's coming up next week. Thank you very much.
You know, Instagram's not a place.